Hello and welcome to CNN News 18, this digital exclusive. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar. What we're going to discuss over the next 10 to 15 minutes is something that a lot of students have wanted over the last few years. Now, what we've seen in the Delhi University over the last few years have been cutoffs that have been really difficult to digest. 99%, 95%. It has been, it has also risen a lot of debate about whether how you can have only 12th class marks determine the caliber or the potential of a student. Now, what has happened is that there is bringing in some sort of an entrance examination that gives the students a better option. What if somebody couldn't do well in their class 12th examinations? Can they even then have a fair chance to get an admission into their desired university with their desired courses? Because as I said, over the last few years, what we've seen, a lot of students had to compromise on their choices of the college versus the course as well. To talk about how this new system can come into place and whether this will actually help students do better, I have with me Chandrachud sir. Sir, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here. Over the last years, as I said, the cutoffs has only gone up from a time when 80% was seen to be too high and then almost 100%. That's why a lot was said that there was too much pressure on class 12th examinations. In case of an unfortunate event, what if the student couldn't do well? Then what happens? Let's talk to you about first, what do you think this new system will bring in, which is an entrance examination that is being spoken about?
Well, thank you, Ritima. I hope I'm audible. See, change is
You are.
always for
Please
the
go ahead now.
better. Yeah, so change is always for the better, and the Delhi University administration has decided that next year onwards, they'll introduce a system of examination by which they will, they would admit students to different colleges, right? Now, such kind of an argument looks very impressive. And given the backdrop of the soaring cutoffs and 100% demands from some colleges at least, it looks really very intuitive. It looks very appealing that one test and perhaps that all the problems will be solved, and the cutoffs will not be that high, and there will be some relaxations, and students will get the choice of their the course of their choice and all that. However, that's not as hunky-dory as the argument itself, may seem to be. On the contrary, my understanding is that a entrance system is going to create more problems than it is going to be resolved. Than it's going to resolve. And I'll tell you basically why this is big, because the attempts are made to correct the system and the anomaly from the top, whereas the problem is at the bottom. Right. So if you look to the data, and don't look to the data of 2021, because that might be a deviation year because of pandemic and the board's exam were not held. But if you look to the data, the CBSE data itself of last year, you'll get to know that no matter how many entrance tests you do, this is this is going to create more problems than it is going to resolve. Let me share that data. If you go by the CBSE data, last year, there were more than 156,000 students who had 90%. There were around 40,000 students who had 95%. And there were around 4,000 some hundred students who had 100%, right? Now, add them all, it comes to around 2 lakhs, okay? Now, assume that what you'll do is have a test and you'll give weightage, 50% weightage to the 12th mark and 50% weightage to the aptitude test or whatever test you may design. Now, which means that even if, let's say, 50% of those students, a lakh of students, match up their performance in the 12th and in the exam, you'll still have 1 lakh students, whereas the number of seats at Delhi University, all colleges, all courses taken together is around 70,000. So which means there will be kind of the same command. I'm not including the state boards. So there are reasons to believe that some of the students of the state boards and some state boards would also qualify. So the attempt looks very intuitive, but in terms of the real numbers, and if you do a realistic understanding, it's not going to resolve. Moreover, and this has been my understanding
I just want to
yeah.
Okay, we'll get to the number of applicants and the seats available. I just want to give our viewers a background of when this proposal was first given, what are the kind of deliberations that have happened. Now, it was in November when a 9 member panel was set up by the Delhi University, tasked with suggesting an alternative strategy for optimal admissions in undergraduate courses. The panel, then appointed by the university's VC, had proposed three options: granting admission on the basis of entrance tests from next year, considering 50% marks from class 12, 50% from an entrance test, or you maintain status quo, which is that you have a cutoff system. The EC has now approved the option of conducting entrance examinations. But as you were pointing out, that still there will be enough problems simply because of the footfalls that we see and number of the seats that are available. Okay, if we keep that argument aside, most of the students over the past few years have spoken about a lot of mental pressure simply because you have to do well in your 12th, otherwise the next 3 years 4 years will not be viable for you. And let's face it, the Indian structure that we have today, Indian parents, whether it's schools, the kind of pressure that we put because your college years, your future education, jobs all depend on it. Don't you then think it will give students a bit of mental peace as well, that okay, in case I don't do well in my class 12, all is not lost because I can have the option of making it up in the entrance exam, which was not available till now.
Of course, it does. I'm not denying it. As I said, entrance tests are one mechanism, is a one mechanism to sort out that problem. But I think the university and University of Delhi, as a as a prestigious university as it is, I think it should have gone into other ways and other things possible as well. I mean, let me give you an example. This happened, let's say, in UK, for example. In 2012, the United Kingdom universities, they started receiving a lot of application because there was a proliferation in number of boards there, right? What did they do? The universities designed their own algorithms. At the end of the day, as a political science teacher, right, I should know who my prospective student would be. And therefore, I should also have some say
Correct.
in assessing or recruiting my prospective students. So I'm not saying that the cutoff system is good. It is a worse. You might have been good at one point in time, but it has now, its shelf life is over. Now you need to change and you need to bring in new systems and new mechanisms. But perhaps, just thinking that, okay, one size fit all approach is what it is, or what is required, is something that I thought was done in a bit of haste, and perhaps more deliberations would have been required. Let me give you an example. I had a friend whose daughter studied in one of the schools in the United States because he was posted there. Now, when he came here, his daughter had to be admitted to a college. What did we do? The University of Delhi already has in place a system of equivalence of marks. The problem that we're facing is not because of anything else, but because there are different structures in different boards. There are different systems. There are different pedagogies, right? So what is required is that the university should design its own algorithms. The university should invite domain experts. The university should look into current practices elsewhere, good practices elsewhere, and then try and put up a very robust system with three parameters in mind: merit, equity, and diversity. I think that is what is required as far as the admission reforms are concerned. Not, swapping one by the other. Because when you swap one by the other, without taking into account the other things, what would happen? See, you had this entrance test called CLAT, CLAT, and you come to the area where I live, that's in Mukherjee Nagar and Karol Bagh, you'll see, mushrooming of coaching institutes. Who are the people who are going to benefit by that? The focus of the university should be on the man and the student in the last street, not the majority of the people who are urban based and all that and studying good schools.
You need to still have a more holistic approach in terms of this entire transition that we need from schools to colleges. So the other aspect is, and you would be able to give us more light on this. Even given the fact that we will be moving forward with the entrance exam now, a lot has been still left in the gray area. What will be the format of this entrance examination? What is kind of the preparation that will go into? And also, will there be a fees that will be put on this entrance examination? What do you think should be the way forward?
Well, I think world over, as the practice is, there it has to be a combination of the methodology to recruit students must have a combination of both the qualitative and the quantitative aptitude tests that we do that should be taken, right? So it's not just about the knowledge of the subject, because as a lot of subjects make a formal start only at the college level. For example, philosophy. Now, philosophy is not
Correct.
taught in a systematic way as other subjects are. So I think lingual skills should be something which must be tested. Communication skills must be tested. The problem resolving aptitude that people have, that could be tested, right? So that can be designed. But as I said, when I went to a university abroad for my own education, I was not required to write a test. What I was required was to write an SOP. Now that SOP itself, gives a glimpse into the kind of things that students do. I mean, look at the school education system. I mean, of course, there's no interview, and there's now a Ganguly committee and the point system. And yet, what you'll see is schools do ask questions to parents about what is the vision of education. And I think that itself is one way through which you can get to know what the potential of the student is. I think the problem is that we don't trust our own teachers in different colleges. St. Stephen's has a system of interview, right? And when they do have an interview, they do filter in a lot of things because of which they're continuing. The problem is that we have one size fit all approach. I mean, it could have been, it could be meaningful, let's say, where the structures are similar. For example, IITs, medical colleges, the structures are similar, so therefore that could have a say there. But between the universities are of different types. You have Unitarian University, federal
Be the devil's
universities, and
advocate.
just
Even
last bit,
the
just
cutoff
last bit,
system hasn't
just
really
last
played
bit.
well.
Between
One
between
second. Even
colleges,
just to play the devil's advocate, even the cutoff system that hasn't played well as far as many students are concerned, because as I said, there is enough mental pressure on the child. And even despite getting a 90-95%, if you still have to make the choice that I can't get my college and my course, it does, you know, put the child in a very negative impact that for the next 3 years, I will have to compromise. And after getting a 95%, why should I compromise? So what I am trying to essentially understand, and you would have seen so many students achieving 90-95% and still having to compromise. I think the idea is to get some sort of a middle ground, that if you do well, you already getting 50% of these marks. In case you haven't done well, then you can make up in the entrance exam. And I have to
yes,
wrap
that
up
is
with this
there.
because we're running out of
But
time.
I but
But
let
don't
me
you
tell
think
you
then
this.
would take away the entire impact? Sure,
See,
sure,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
there's a problem in the audio, but I still could get what you're asking. See, the problem is the supply side of it, right? The demand side keeps going up, whereas the supply side remains the same. So no matter what you do, remember the seats will still be limited. So in order to ease that out, what you need to do is, yes, if somebody gets 95%, of course he should have a right to get into the college of his or her own choice. So that is why it's very important that you design systems which are more inclusive, right? The examination systems are meant for elimination, not for inclusion. Any examination for that matter, or any competitive examination for that matter, is meant to eliminate, not to recruit, isn't it? And that elimination happens only because the supply is too much and the demand is too less. So I think that is why the university should get its heads together and try and bring out some pathways which is going to be more relaxing, more inclusive for students. Simply one stop decision of
I think
one
that's
test and
very
everything is sorted out
well
is not
made
going to work.
point, that you need to have a more inclusive approach rather than a more eliminating approach going forward. We'll have to leave the discussion there. We'll also want to hear from a lot of students about what they feel about this change that has happened. Would you want to stick to a
See,
cutoff
I tell you,
because then you know what
if
you're
you
getting
go to a
into?
student,
But you guys,
they will say बहुत अच्छा है. But they'll have to understand कि ये बहुत अच्छा के नीचे में क्या क्या
but
करना
they're
होता
also
है. I think
stakeholders, no, sir. At the end of the day, it's not fair to only see what the teachers and the officials feel. It's also students. They all, at the end of the day, have to go with 3 years of that education. They're also equal stakeholders. So it's good to hear these voices. We would want to hear from some students as well. But as
Yes,
of
yes.
now, completely out of time, we leave this discussion here. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
watching.
Thank you. Thank you.